Now, one would think essential oils would be superior to candles because there's no combustion involved. But that's not entirely true either. So the lack of burning does eliminate the particulate material and the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. But there are still volatile organic compounds such as formaldehyde and terpenes. The other issue with the essential oils is that certain essential oils are actually endocrine disruptors. Things like lavender and tea tree oil. You are not supposed to diffuse those oils in households where there are small children or pets because there are studies that demonstrate that does have some ill effects. And I actually was a little bit crushed when I found this out because I loved, hence the past tense, diffusing lavender. I love that smell so much. It gives me this like spa feel, but it is an endocrine disruptor and I have both pets and children in my house. So that is a no more in this household. Welcome to No Filter Doctor, where we cut through the health hype. Dig into what's real, what's backed by evidence, and what works. I'm your host, Dr. AK. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I'm going to talk to all of you today about candles and essential oils. Now, some of you may be thinking, why on earth are we talking about this? This is very off-brand or off-topic. But it actually isn't, because if you go on the internet or social media, you're going to hear different arguments about each of these things. One side of that argument is that they're very, very healthy. They are anti-inflammatory. They are antimicrobial. And it talks about all the different health benefits of different candles and essential oils. But then the other argument is a far extreme where it is, do not burn any of these. They cause cancer. They're very damaging. So I want to look at the actual evidence to help us determine, are they harmful? Are they healthy? Is this a good, bad thing, or is this another one of those it depends in a large area of gray? Let's start with the candle component of it. So the anatomy of a candle is very simple. There is the wax part and there is the wick part. The wax often serves as a fuel, and it can be made from different components such as paraffin, soy, beeswax, coconut, palm, or a blend of any of these. The wick is typically a braided or twisted cotton that's placed into the wax, and that's what's lit and burns. The heat will melt that wax into a liquid, and then the liquid is drawn up into the wick and serves as a fuel and helps to keep the candle burning. And then this cycle continues until you either blow out the candle or it burns out. Now that burning process and that melting process of the wax also causes certain substances to be vaporized into the air. These substances are things known as particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. There was an interesting study done that looked at paraffin, stearin wax, soy, and palm wax candles, each with different scents. So there were floral, oriental, spice, fresh, and fruit scents, along with unscented versions of each one of those candles. And what they wanted to see is what gets released into the air when these candles are burned. Does it make a difference depending on the wax or the scent? The researchers found that every single one of the candles released something into the air, but the unscented ones did so at lower concentrations, independent of what the wax was that it was made of. One of the things that often comes up frequently when we're talking about burning candles are these compounds called phthalates. Now, these are chemicals that are used in a variety of different things, but it comes up very often whenever we are creating a scent. Scented candles, specifically those that have synthetic fragrances, release phthalates into the air whenever they're being burned. The main problem with these phthalates is they are endocrine disruptors. They interfere with our hormones. And so they can lead to reproductive problems and other issues related to hormones and our endocrine system. But all of these issues were identified in laboratories. The main question is, do these phthalates have any kind of significant effect outside of laboratory conditions, right? You can burn a candle under a hood. that doesn't really mimic the real life setting of what it would be like burning a candle in your house. They've done studies and they have no idea whether there's any clinical significance to burning these phthalates in the air or not. Other studies are out there and say it's totally fine. You can burn these candles without a worry in the world. But the problem is a lot of those studies are backed by the industries who are selling the product. So you can't really put a whole lot of weight into what they're going to say because there's a lot of bias going into the development of that study. So regarding whether these are true endocrine disruptors and we really need to worry about the phthalates, not entirely sure. There is a chance because it has been identified under laboratory conditions, but we don't have enough data in terms of how to apply that if you want to, say, burn something in your living room. What we do know is that people who have allergies and respiratory problems, a lot of times that can get worse with the scented candles, especially in situations that have poor ventilation. Now, one would think essential oils would be superior to candles because there's no combustion involved, but that's not entirely true either. So the lack of burning does eliminate the particulate material and the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. But there are still volatile organic compounds such as formaldehyde and terpenes. So the question is, what do these terpenes and formaldehyde do? Well, for most healthy adults, there's no evidence of toxicity from occasional or chronic exposure. You can have things like allergies and some respiratory irritants. Some people may also get headaches, but nothing long-term bad in terms of toxicity. Children and pets, that's a different story, in addition to pregnant women. So lavender and tea tree oil are proven endocrine disruptors. I actually was a little bit crushed when I found that out because I love diffusing lavender. Oils like camphor and eucalyptus, they contain monoterpenes, which have demonstrated toxicity in children and animals. Tea tree oils and a handful of other essential oils have also demonstrated neurological consequences in pets. The American Academy of Pediatrics outright said that the use of these essential oils should be completely avoided around infants, small children, and those in their adolescence until we have more data available on what the consequences are. So while we can't lean into the data about candles to establish safety or danger, we can say that there is data out there regarding the essential oils, that they are harmful or dangerous to children and pets depending on which oil it is that you're diffusing in your house. So that addresses the are there harms side of the coin. Now to the health benefits. There are no reported health benefits to burning candles at all. So we can just take that off the table. There are some health benefits when it comes to the essential oils. However, it's not anything that can be proven on a molecular type of basis. A lot of the studies are associated with stress reduction, relaxation, and improved mood. And then from that, we also see some benefits in terms of blood pressure and heart rate. While I have no way of proving what the molecular biology is that's going behind all of this, I think a lot of it likely has to do with activation of a parasympathetic nervous system. But what I don't know is, could this be from the specific essential oil or just the act of what you go through when you're diffusing these oils? You're taking the time to take deep breaths and breathe them in. You like the scent. Perhaps you're sitting down and reading a book. Perhaps you're burning these oils when you want to take a bath or something like that. Those are other activities that are also associated with stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. And the studies that I read, they also do not have any kind of defined pathway of how these benefits happen. So yes, there are some health benefits to the essential oils. What we don't know are those benefits because of the oils themselves or the ritual or other confounding variables associated with diffusing those oils. So when it comes to answering that question, hey, should I be burning candles or diffusing essential oils in my house? The answer really is it depends. The candles definitely have some phthalates. They have the particulate material, the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, and the volatile organic compounds. We know those come from candles. We know there's no health benefit to candles, but we also don't know outside of a laboratory setting how harmful are these different agents? Do the phthalates reach a significant concentration in the household when they're burned? We don't know. We know that things that have synthetic fragrances in them do tend to burn more of these compounds. So if you really like the ambiance of burning a candle in your house, perhaps using a candle with just minimal scent would be something that makes sense. There aren't a ton of studies out there that show us which wax is better. I often hear things that soy wax is better, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do this little investigation to figure out, is any of this stuff true? There's not a lot of studies. There was one study out there that said it didn't really matter what the wax was made of. It had more to do with what the scent was. When it comes to diffusing essential oils, we do have a little bit more data. We know there's no soot. And without soot, that decreases that particulate material and the polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. So we do know that with the essential oils. But we also know that those can have some endocrine and hormone disrupting behaviors. So if there is someone pregnant living in the house, there are children, or there are pets, we want to avoid burning those because there is evidence that there is some harm. As always, the decision is ultimately yours. My hope is, though, with this knowledge, you can engage with each of these products with a little bit more information. And that, my friends, is it. It was a short and sweet one this week. So hopefully I was able to keep your attention, and I will talk to you again next week. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's No Filter Doctor. If you enjoyed the content, you can follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also go to www.thewholehumanhealthandwellbeing.com and sign up for the weekly newsletter, where you will get a link to the blog, that week's podcast, and a health tip of the week sent directly to you. It's important to know that while I am a doctor, I'm not your doctor. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only, and it's not intended as medical advice. Listening to this podcast does not establish a doctor-patient relationship. The information discussed should not be used to diagnose, treat, or prevent any medical condition, nor should it replace individualized medical care. If you have questions or concerns about your health, please contact your own healthcare provider. Any decisions to delay or forego a medical evaluation or treatment based on the information discussed in this podcast are made so at your own risk. My only financial disclosure is my medical practice, The Whole Human Health and Wellbeing. Take care, and I'll talk to you next week.